Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome one of the most talked about chefs in the UK today, Rob Howell, chef founder of Root in Bristol. Rob joins us today to talk about his guiding principles, the root interpretation of plant-centric cooking, how he came to publish his most recent book, some of the dishes he's most proud of. In addition, we'll be talking about his culinary and cuisine influences, how he's championing a more sustainable working environment for him and his team, and how he hopes to influence food and cooking in the UK. So welcome, Rob. Thank you so much for joining me today as part of the Food People in Conversation With series.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Great. At the Food People, we're very clear about why we do what we do. We're champions of change, driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. And this series is all about talking to others across the spectrum of food and drink to find out more about why they do what they do, how in their way they're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. So, Rob, really great to be speaking to you today. Can we start by just talking a bit about your food journey? Where did that spark come from to be a chef? Where and when did you start cooking?
I think it was a super gradual thing. When I was younger, I spent a lot of weekends with my mum in the kitchen. I didn't really know at the time, but we ate very well. We always sat at the table. It was always quite important to us. We were very lucky to have Sunday lunch most weekends, and I would always just be around. And I think it was loads of little kind of bits like that. We always holidayed in France. We'd go around the markets. There would always be fresh produce. We'd spend the time in the supermarkets looking at everything. And I think it was a gradual kind of love of food that just grew and grew. When it came to school and choosing what I wanted to do, my brother had gone into carpentry. I wanted to get out there working just like my brother, aged like 16, and ended up getting a job in a restaurant a couple of years before that. And it kind of just started off there. I'd help out at the weekends, went to college, and then started full-time as soon as I could.
Yeah.
And it just snowballed, and the passion, I don't think the passion was there from the get-go.
Yeah.
It definitely snowballed with working with people, the people in this industry, and the sheer like love for food that everyone has, and it's totally infectious, and that's definitely what it just gets stronger and stronger. Which
it's
is
exactly that. As funny enough, I was preempting in my own mind as you were talking then. It's infectious, isn't it? When you're around people who just love and share that same passion that you have for food, it kind of fuels you on, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and true, and that is what kept me going and kept me wanting more. And this industry isn't easy, but with these people around you constantly like feeding this, just the knowledge that just everything about it, it's not just work, it's the enjoyment of going out for a meal, it's the people you meet that also you spend your whole time talking about food, you go out together, you eat together, you work together. It's a very nice thing to be part of, definitely.
You mentioned there about your kind of family, and actually when you look back now, you ate very well, and there's clearly some kind of foundational principles there. Are there any kind of dishes or anything that you remember from your kind of childhood that particularly kind of stand out?
Definitely, it was always the same. Not as in my mum did absolutely. There was three of us, and she worked as well, and we'd always have a meal on the table. It would be the classics, the lasagna, the bolognese, we'd always have a roast, but I remember it very fondly, and it must have been good because as in I love food, so it started somewhere for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So let's just talk a little bit about some chefs, I guess, grandly talk about a food philosophy and not wanting to over intellectualize it, but what is Root all about? What are those kind of guiding principles, I suppose, that you employ at Root?
It's definitely changing. We've been it's 4 years this August,
Yeah,
and it is growing and snowballing as we go, and we're constantly learning. We opened up with the intention of serving more vegetables.
yeah,
It's the idea of flipping a menu. It was Josh Eggleton, the owner of the restaurant, that came to me and said, I've got this idea of, when you go out to eat and you have your meat and fish on the menu, and then the vegetables are the side dishes. He said, how about we flip that, and you eat the vegetables and you order the meat and fish and the side dishes. So that was the principle that we started with.
yeah,
And now it's kind of snowballed, and we cook a lot less meat. We, just through the nature of, we had the meat on the menu, but people were more excited by the vegetable dishes. And we were like, why are we wasting our time with this when no one really seems to be interested in it? And we grew and grew, and with vegetarians, vegans came, and it just become this thing that it was all about vegetables. We were like, well, let's make it about vegetables completely, basically. So the guiding principles of it is using as much local produce as possible when possible. It's a lot easier now in coming to a summer where we've got a lot of growers that have an abundance of stuff, which is great. In the winter, we definitely do go further afield and into Europe to find things. Otherwise, Sweden turnip, a whole menu on root vegetables is a little bit difficult. But just trying to show people what you can do with vegetables, how delicious they are, how enjoyable they are, and the fact that people come in and can have a meal, feel that they've had the indulgence, they've had like the satisfaction, they're full, and they've eaten vegetables with maybe a tiniest bit of meat or veg that they usually, it would be the total opposite.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple of moments ago that as you've gone through this journey, you've seen diners' excitement grow around the more vegetable-based or vegetable-centric items on the menu. Does the same go for you and your team in the kitchen, that actually you're as excited or perhaps even more excited about the possibilities with vegetables compared with meat?
No, definitely. When I started off and I'd worked in 4 fish restaurants that literally served the whole menu was fish. I worked at the Pony and Trap, where it was very much everything, a lot of game, a lot of meat. And then I came to Root with no, like, obviously I could cook and I had cooked vegetables, but it wasn't like I was a vegetable chef as such. And we've just learned over the years how, like, what to do, like kind of the same way you treat meat and fish, like what can we do to make this product taste fantastic, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of led from that, and it is very much, we luckily literally yesterday we got a delivery from, so there's a team that used to have a restaurant in Bristol called Birch. They sold that. They grew their own vegetables. They now grow their own vegetables and produce cider. And it was the first delivery of the year from them yesterday. So they bought in turnips, rocket, herbs, salad leaves, like chimney de rapa, kind of the turnip tops. And it genuinely is exciting to taste this produce that's just been picked from around the corner. And it's a whole different, it's a world away from just this vegetables that sometimes is a bit like bland and not interesting. Like when you do it properly, these vegetables are absolutely incredible, and it excites us just as much as, well, even more so, like you said, than meat or fish these days, definitely.
And obviously more and more chefs are taking perhaps a vegetable forward or vegetable centric approach. How do you, what's your kind of unique slant or perspective on that world at Root? Because you're clearly doing something really special. You're getting incredible feedback, and I, like thousands of others, are following you on social media, and you've got something a bit special. Can you in any way articulate what it is, your kind of unique perspective on the world of plant-centric cooking?
I think it was just taking this whole, like I said, I've worked at like kind of high end, the Pony and Trap had the Michelin star, kind of gone through all of this stuff, worked in hotels, and taking it all, and I kind of didn't realize, but I've always had that everywhere I've worked has used seasons. Like seasonal cooking was always there, and I kind of didn't realize till now that I was so lucky to have that like training where you follow the seasons. It's about sustainability. I just kind of thought every kitchen did that, but it obviously isn't the case. So I was very lucky to always have that in me where, right, what's in season, what's good. And it's just come to that next level now where we do whatever the growers have. At the moment, we've got 3 separate farms around like Bristol that kind of literally say, we've got this, and it's, I'll take it. It's not like, oh no, that's not on our menu. It's literally, we get what we're given, right? What can we do with this? Because at the end of the day, it's local produce, it's seasonal, it's gonna be delicious. So and that's kind of how it should be, really, you know, like they're telling you what to cook because they're giving you the best thing that is there.
Yeah.
And that, in that time, most of the time you don't really have to do much to it, which is great for us.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a concept of really trying to it's great with the small plates because you don't have to build up these big dishes and make sure someone's full, and I need a bit of potato, or what's the main element like to replace the meat kind of thing.
Okay.
It's all these small dishes that you can really just focus on this one thing and make it delicious. And that's kind of what we go for, which seems to work really well, which is great.
Why do you think that this way of cooking, vegetable focused, small plate, why do you think it's, because it feels super relevant right now, why do you think that is?
I just think times, obviously it's always changing. I think people are very much working out that, right, we need to change what we're doing here. Our food systems are kind of backwards. The vast, like just the meat industry in a whole is pretty crazy, and I think people realize that now, and they're seeing, right, what can I do? And eating less meat is a very simple thing to do, especially now where all of this stuff's coming out, where vegan, vegetarian food, like us and so many people, everyone's like, oh wow, it's not boring, it's not boiled veg, it's not this side dish, it can be the main event, and it can be just as, like I said, indulgent and interesting and fulfilling as a fillet steak or whatever you want. So I think it's just capturing that essence of getting people excited about what they're eating still, which is what you want with food, you know.
Definitely.
And I think the small plate, I know it's not everyone's favorites, and small plates kind of come sometimes, like, I don't know, it's got this connotations as such, but with our menu, it works. It makes this minimal waste. People can come in, have as much or as little as they want. Like, I love sharing food. Like, that for me, that's what it's all about, going in and for friends, and you're all sharing, you're all like talking about the food, rather than having this one big plate of food that you go, oh, I chose something I didn't like, kind of thing, you know. So I think it just works really well, and for us it just means that we're constantly chopping and changing the menu, and it leads to so many, like, just there's like no wastage ever, and it just means we can be super flexible with, we've only got, like, they bought in turnips, but they only bought in a kilo. That's absolutely fine. We can get a dish on tomorrow, and then we'll sell out, and we'll do something the next day. It's a lot more flexible for us to do what we do.
And are you literally changing the menu on a daily basis?
Yeah, no, definitely. As in, sometimes it'll stick for a few days, but we do the same with our fish. We get a little bit of fish in, and they'll tell us what's best. On that day, it'll go on the menu, we'll sell out. The next day, we haven't got that, Rob, we'll do something else. That goes on. Whatever, like turnips came in last night, so we're going to get them on a dish today, and it will change tomorrow. And it's the same, we got some red mullet in today, which they were going to do with some chimney de wrapper tops, and then tomorrow we'll do it with something else. And that it keeps us on our toes. It's exciting for us, it's exciting for the customer, and it is that thing, food is just not wasted, which is the main thing.
I mean, it leads me on to ask, what's your kind of creative process in terms of designing a dish then, because you haven't got a lot of time? You know, you
No.
talk to some chefs about, you know, the different kind of iterations and the kind of development process that goes behind some of these dishes. You know, if you're getting turnips in last night and you know, red mullet in this morning, and you're kind of putting it, how does that even work?
We most of the time we put dishes on in confidence, like we just like go for it. And there is that thing where you might send the first one out and go, oh, it needs this, and we just we're very natural. Like no two dishes look the same. It's not, for me, it's not about, right, it has to look the same every time. It's very much like the vegetables are different, like naturally, like everything's different, and it's never going to be the same. Like sometimes we serve oysters and one's big and one's small, and the chef will say, oh, do I need to match them? And I'm kind of like, you can do, but oysters don't grow equally. So if someone says, oh, mine's bigger, you'll be like, well, you're lucky. Like
Yeah.
I just find like you kind of just have to go with the flow, and we'll put something on, and it is exciting. And we've luckily got an incredible team that are very talented, and we just love it. Yeah. And we just kind of, the creative process is
a
bit of talking, a bit of, right, we'll do this, actually that didn't work, we'll do that. And it is, it's exciting. And I think that's why, I don't know, I think that's the reason why we are busy, you know, we're constantly like trying to better ourselves in a nice way.
And continually changing and evolving by the sounds of things as well. Who is it, do you think, if you were to try and characterize your audience, who is it that you're trying to appeal to at Root? Is it vegans or vegetarians or flexitarians, or is it indeed, you know, all out meat eaters and trying to challenge perceptions?
We get everyone in, and that's the beauty of it. Like sometimes you look out and you're like, wow, we got a really young clients like customers in tonight, and everyone's kind of like early 20s, and we can like change the music, and like we kind of try and adapt everything to just make sure everyone's having a nice time. And it is down to the service. Some people like it more relaxed, some people like it more formal, and we try and just make it happen for everyone. And if there's like at lunchtime, sometimes there's some older people that come in, let's not put loud music on, let's be a bit more, sometimes they don't quite get the small plates, and they want starters and main course, which is totally fine. And we try and make sure that like everyone's happy, and we work with the customers as well, definitely. But I think that's why it does work, is you can have a table of 6, 1 vegan, 2 meat eaters, a fish eater, and everyone's happy. And I think that's the great thing about it. It works for everyone.
I love the kind of the dynamism that you're describing, you know, the fluidity of it, I suppose. How does all of what you're describing, how is that influenced by working in because you've got an open kitchen, haven't you?
Yes.
How is that different?
I think it helps like I love it. It's a funny, like some days you just don't want to talk to people, and it's not because anyone's done anything, you're just in that mood where sometimes I'm like, I can't like face the customers, and I kind of keep my head down. But then like if someone comes over and they start chatting, it's like I'll always try and do my best. And then some days I want to be out in the restaurant and chat to everyone, but it just depends. But having an open kitchen, you learn a lot about what your customers want, how they eat the food. Like you put a dish on, and we used to have risotto on the menu, and we'd send the risotto and be like, oh, that looks brilliant. And then you'd see people scoop the risotto onto these sharing plates, and then they'd be scooping it off this plate, and you'd kind of be like, oh, that's not really what we intended. So it's like, right, let's change that. And you learn a lot about like just people's meals, and you realize sometimes that like the food's, they're there just to have a nice time, and they're not really interested in your food, which like you're just there to like make sure they're having a nice time. So it kind of like puts you at ease, and you just try and make sure everyone's happy, really. It's nice to be able to learn from the customer as well, and take on, and that's why you change as well, because it's like a feedback thing, which works really well.
And you're there in in the
Yeah,
space. You get that
yeah,
direct feedback. You see people's facial expressions and so on.
exactly. Sometimes it is bad because I'll be like, well, they don't look happy, like that's bad. And then like front of house, they'll go over, it's everything, and they're like loving it. It's just like you kind of misinterpret. But it's nice to see like some people will eat slower. Some people like want all of their food at the same time and they wolf it down. And it's nice to be able to see that and react to that and kind of like I said, try and make sure everyone's having this meal that they want, which is nice.
It might sound like a basic question, but why is cooking with a more vegetal or plant bias, why is that even important to you?
I think it has to be important now to well, it's just that shift of like, right, what is the future and what can we do, and we've kind of worked out where we've gone wrong, and it's just that change of just for everything, like money wise, to be able to go out to the shop and spend a lot less on vegetables and be able to do your weekly shop for a lot less because you're not buying meat, for the environment, for health.
Yeah.
Be able to eat a meal, be absolutely stuffed, and know that you're getting all this nutritional value that you might not get elsewhere. It's just on so many levels, just makes sense. It just seems like the right way to go. It doesn't mean I still eat meat.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegetarian. I still eat fish, but it's just choosing the right moments to eat that meat and fish and genuinely enjoy it. It's a treat. Like, it shouldn't just be an everyday occurrence where you're just chucking meat, like you don't know where it comes from. It's nice to really focus on and just do it properly and get it from a decent source that you know that it's been done in the best way possible, kind of thing.
And that's what I was actually going to go on to ask you, actually. So you're clearly not a vegetarian or vegan restaurant. You do cook and use and eat meat, but what is your kind of approach to how you use it?
We started off at the start having like three meat dishes on the menu always. I kind of started off like using offal and stuff, and we'd use the liver and we'd get in sweetbreads, and I had pig's heads and I'd brine them, and it was a lot of work and no one would really eat them. And I was trying to be like, oh, if you're going to eat meat, eat something that's a bit less, not a fillet of beef, not your pork belly kind of thing. And it didn't really go down that well. Not in the sense people didn't enjoy it, but it just wasn't being ordered. So I then went on to, right, well, we'll just get really nice steak in, charge it at a premium in the sense of not that we're making loads of money, in the sense of we'll get the best steak possible from a local farm. But then same again, people weren't having that. And I was kind of like, well, if I can't do it in these ways, there's no point in doing it at all. So at the menu, like, we do very rarely have meat on the menu, and we're just choosing those times. We're talking about to a butcher down the road in Wapping Wharf. There's a butcher there, talking about getting a whole animal in and using the whole thing and just having it throughout the menu for the next few months.
Yeah.
When it's kind of ready, and cure it and do it that way. But just trying to work out that it's still, for us, like I said, we're still learning and working out what is the best way to do it. I'm reading stuff, watching documentaries, and I'm like, if my little bit towards like trying to do the best thing possible is serving less meat in a really busy restaurant, it is quite a big impact that you can have. So it's just trying to work out what I see fit or what the team sees fit. And like sometimes we do get comments, it would have been nice with a bit of meat on the menu, but I'm like, you still enjoyed yourself, so what's the problem, basically?
It sounds like also it's about thinking about those moments to sort of accessorize or just use a very small amount of something to take perhaps a vegetable dish to the next level, but it's more on the side as opposed to an intrinsic element.
No, sometimes we used to get some like cured, some like lardo or something in, and we'd dress the broccoli or whatever in the lardo, or we'd get pancetta, and for a while we had it on our histy cabbage dish, which people liked. But we always made sure there was like a replacement as well for like vegetarians. But at the moment we haven't got any on the menu, and like I said, we're still trying to work out what is the right thing to do, and what do we want to do. So we'll see what happens. But for now, it's a really nice thing to have a menu that doesn't have any meat on as well. So
Yeah, exactly.
I know we still do over 100 covers most days, and no one has a problem. So it's a win for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I must ask you about the book. How did the Root cookbook come about, and is it a book for chefs, for home cooks, for both? Yeah, tell us a bit about it. How did it come about?
It came about a few years ago, not long after we opened, actually. I wasn't in, and the publishers from Bloomsbury and Absolute came in and had a lunch, left their card, and told my chef that they'd be interested in doing a cookbook. So when I came in the next day, my chef passed it on and said, "Oh, these guys came in yesterday. They talked about a cookbook." And I kind of thought, that's cool, but I don't know. I thought it was just like a passing comment kind of thing. And then we got a meeting set up and talked about it. And then it kind of disappeared for a while. And I thought, mate, I kind of started writing some books and some ideas. And then I thought, oh, it's not happened. A kind of year passed. And I was like, nothing's happening. And then a contract comes through. And it was like, we need a cookbook in 9 months, basically. And from there, it was like, well, I better crack on. So I spent my days, I'm obsessed with cookbooks. I've got one of my shelves, like they're just all over the house, and it's very much been a part of my career and how I've learned as a chef.
Yeah.
Just constantly reading cookbooks, and it was very much how I created menus as well. I'd always take parts, and that's a clever idea or a combination, or it would always influence my cooking, definitely. So I wanted to make a book that chefs could use, like I used other people's cookbooks and take influence on, but also wanted to make a book where it would just show how nice vegetables are to eat. So I tried to find that balance of a home cookbook, but also a restaurant cookbook. And I hope that I've done a good job where it is feasible either way.
Yeah.
There is a combination of more simpler dishes that you can do at home. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I shot most of it in my house anyway.
Did you?
And I tried to make it, I made it all at home with all of my equipment, because I was like, I want to kind of prove to myself that I didn't kind of falsely claim that it could be done at home. So it was a real it's a real honor to have. I genuinely never thought in a million years I'd have my own cookbook. But it's such a privilege to have out there, and I'm just so glad people seem to be enjoying it, which is the best.
They definitely are. It's a hugely inspirational read, and so much to glean from it. Is there a dish or a couple of dishes in there that you're particularly proud of?
Like all of it, like it is literally a log of, like, we have evolved and the dishes have changed. So not many of the dishes are on the menu now, but if you came and ate, well, there is a couple, like the beetroot dish, the beetroot blackberries and hazelnuts, that usually stays on the menu, and the celeriac's on there. But you'd see that it's root food, and you'd kind of see the book, they're similar, but we've kind of changed and evolved as well. And it's just a log of like the first 3 years at Root, basically, and all of the, like, I dare say, like, best of, basically. Yeah. But like I said, because we changed the menu so much and so dramatically, like working out what to put in it was genuinely quite
I'm sure
quite difficult, because it was like, well, which version of that dish shall I do? Or there was so many dishes to choose from. It was kind of like, even to pick like 100 was quite difficult.
Yeah.
But no, it's a real it's just absolutely great, and I love it.
Tell us about the beetroot dish. How, for those that haven't been to Root or experienced it, what they ordered, the beetroot. Just tell us about that, because that does feel like a staple. It's on the menu. It's in the book.
Yeah, it is a staple. It is so it kind of, I came up with it before we'd opened Root, so it was kind of that basis of like this is where it started off, and it has changed and evolved. It's beetroot. Obviously, beetroot's available in the UK and can be grown all year, so it's a
Yeah.
perfect dish that is just always seasonal. We roast it, the beetroot's in the skins, and then dice it up so they're like almost like chewy, kind of really sweet, like they kind of go sticky. We pickle it, and we ferment it as well. We mix it together, and then it's got hazelnuts and berries, like we use blueberries, blackberries. We were using like green strawberries for a while. We try and keep it seasonal. We try and pick as many blackberries when they're in season, and then use them throughout the year. And it's just that, it's kind of, it's just beetroot on the plate. We used to dress it in a little tian and cut out the discs all perfect when we first opened, because I still like, I know, as in I've changed through the 3 years now, and it's very much like throw it on the plate now. More natural. The beetroot we just slice in the shape of the beetroot rather than cutting them out. Like, we don't chop it up into perfect dice. We literally just chop up the whole beetroot, and it's kind of that evolution of working out, actually, I'd rather waste less. I'd rather save my time, because it just tastes the same. And actually, I love the fact that it looks way more natural on the plate than this kind of perfect dish that we used to create. And it kind of, just encompasses Root as a whole, that idea of sustainability, getting the best out of vegetables, trying to do something interesting and a little bit different with vegetables, and making a dish that is, well, I'd like to think, tasty as well. So it's a perfect dish to kind of sum us up, basically, and it's a nice one to, a staple to have on the menu for sure.
Brilliant. If I can shift a little bit to the hospitality industry as a whole, and you've already mentioned that it's not an easy place to work. It's hard work. It's long hours. How are you trying to challenge some of those norms and stereotypes in the way, to create, I suppose, more of a sustainable way of working for you and your team? How are you doing things a little bit differently?
I'd say everyone's kind of working out the change and the shift, and it is happening slowly. I started cooking 15 years ago and worked the 16-hour days and the long shifts and the no breaks, and kind of, we still do long days, and I love it, and that's why we keep doing it. But just trying to make sure like everyone's happy. We've grown now as a team, but we've had people, the front of house team, the 3 core front of house have been there for nearly, over 3 years, all of them now. We've only been open for 3.5. So the kitchen team, Josh has been there since the start. Alfie joined 6 months later. He's still there, and it's just trying to make sure that they're happy, and it works for them as well, because then it like works for the business. So Josh, like, just like little things where Josh doesn't like working the whole days now, so he's on the half shifts and like he's working the mornings, and just trying to be more relatable. Like, I've become a father last year, so just, it's not all about work, and you kind of need to realize that, and there's more important things than cooking people's lunch sometimes. And when you kind of remember that, I think it helps moving forward to make sure that everyone's outside life is happy as well. And it's just trying to create that balance. We've employed some more people that have kids and they can't work certain days, and it's just making sure everyone's happy and trying to get that balance. It is tough, and it is, writing a rota is definitely more difficult now, but just because it is, what's the point in it if people aren't happy and people don't want to be at work, they're not going to cook nice food. And I genuinely believe in that. Like, happy chefs have creates nice food, like, and that is the case. And the joy of Root, and we've had comments and feedback, is that people enjoy it so much because they sit there and they say it looks like everyone's having a great time. And that is such a nice thing to be part of, and and that is Root as well. And why I love it and why I love going to work is because we genuinely have the best time. It's not just about this perfect plate of food that you're creating, it's about the whole experience.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so refreshing to
Yeah.
hear as well.
Yeah.
That's really
There's still a bit to go. Like it's difficult to balance. Like the cost of running a restaurant is just astronomical, and there's so many things that you just don't even think about. Even I kind of forget the costs that are hidden in there, where you get the bill for the card machine and you're charged £1,000 a month for just using a card machine. You're like, that's bonkers. Like no one thinks about all of these things. Like we got our extraction cleaned, another £1,000. Like all of this hidden cost where someone comes in and goes, God, that plate of beetroot's £8. And you're like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's rubbish. Like beetroot's not expensive. And you're like, no, but running a restaurant is expensive.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's just trying to get across to people. We try and not overwork our staff. We try and give them a half decent wage. Like all of these aspects of the business that you try and make happen, that I don't think people know that the price of eating out needs to be more expensive, basically, unfortunately. But I think this is the best time to do it, where the pandemic's happened and people are just like they know that it's a luxury to eat out, whereas before it wasn't a luxury. I think it was just you did it and that was life, whereas now people have kind of realized actually it is really special to go out and you have to pay for it.
Do you find that people that are dining with you, does it feel like they're a bit more, having been through what we've all been through over the last 12 months plus, that they're perhaps a little bit more in touch with what's important and priorities and people and community and that kind of thing?
I think definitely, like everyone's been really, really nice. Our customers have been so understanding, and there's still rules to follow. We've still got the 2-meter rule. We've got our screens up inside the restaurant. You can't have tables of 6. Everyone's wearing their masks, and it is different, and everyone's being really nice and really respectful to us. Everyone's tipping really well, which is a massive, like it's really nice for the team as well. We don't expect it at all, but it is extra special when it happens. And just that understanding. And I think our customers are great, and we don't really get that many problems, to be honest. And I'm at a point now where if there was a problem, I'm more than happy to try and explain our point of view, and this has happened because of this. Like the days are gone of like, how dare you run out of food? Like I feel like it's so like kind of, especially after what we've gone through, we're like, are you really going to complain about one dish not being on the menu when we've been sat in our houses for a year?
Exactly.
Like kind of get the bigger picture of kind of life as a whole, and I'm sure you'll deal with it, basically.
Can I ask you a little bit about cuisine influences and how cuisine has impacted your cooking? Is it all about British, or are you inspired by other food cultures, I guess, from around?
No, definitely. When people ask what Root is, what my food is, I really struggle to. I genuinely never know what to say. Like, I guess seasonal, plant-focused cooking, but it sounds a bit like, I don't know, like it just like cooking like nice food. And if it comes from, I haven't been all around the world, but I've been around Europe and stuff, and America and Scandinavia. So I'd say the influence is there. I don't, further afield, obviously take inspiration, and we do some like spice dishes, but it's only as much as like I've read it in a book. It's never, I haven't experienced that like culture firsthand, so it's more difficult to maybe adapt that. But we always try and do our take, where it's just taking an element from it, or there's a flavor combination there or something, rather than doing a whole dish. But we take influence from everywhere, and from eating on holiday and being like, wow, this is amazing. I was lucky enough to go to Jordan for Action Against Hunger before
Yeah.
lockdown. And I came back and did a dish there because they did us like a cucumber salad that was like incredible out there. And I came back and did that. But then I also take influence where I was having a muller rice one day, and I really like muller rice, and then I ended up putting a cold rice pudding with like an apple compote on the menu. So it's just like trying to create food that's nice, and it comes from everywhere, and it could be on the street, it could be on Instagram, or just create tasty food basically.
That's brilliant. If you or Root were to have a lasting impact, or you might say legacy, on food and cooking in the UK, what would you want that to be?
It's such a pleasure when someone even just says, "Oh yeah, I've heard of Root," or "Oh, that's like," when you sometimes I'm somewhere like far like away or something, or I speak to someone and they're like, "Oh my god, Root," and I'm kind of like, how do you know? Like, you kind of forget in your bubble that you've touched, like, you've reached a lot of people, and it's amazing, and that is enough for me. And for people to come in and enjoy themselves is an absolute pleasure, and it is a struggle. I was saying to my wife Meg a few days ago, I don't know how much more we can achieve at Root. I feel like we've not peaked, but like it's really difficult as like running a restaurant to keep on trend, to keep popular, to keep almost reinventing yourself. We got a bib gourmand, which I'm very proud of, and it's amazing to have. The team's amazing. We've won awards, and we've got a cookbook, and I'm running out of like, I'm so happy. It's almost like I don't want it. I want to end on a high before it like starts to go sour, kind of thing. But it's just having a restaurant and being able to cook for people is a real honor, and that's good enough for me at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't know what the future holds, but yeah, we'll just take every day as it comes at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly it feels like the relevance of what you're doing has longevity, considering seasonality, sustainability, waste, local, plant-centric. That feels like a formula that, because of all the bigger things that are happening in the world, has relevance much further than today. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think just still, like I said, we've changed so much, and you're still learning, and I think it will go on as much as we're still enjoying ourselves, and you're still evolving, and you'll never run out of things to learn about cooking. So there's years in it, but it's just what I feel like very proud to just be part of it at all, and I'm like, I never thought it would. When Josh said, "Do you want to try this vegetable restaurant out?" It was basically I was gonna get it off his feet, and do the first 2 months and kind of be like, right, someone else can do it, and here we are, like 4 years later. I couldn't imagine like life without it now, but we'll just see what happens in the future, I suppose.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Rob. I mean, that concludes this episode of the Food People in Conversation with Rob. On behalf of us all at the Food People and the In Conversation with audience, thank you so much for joining me today and for telling your really humble, inspiring and thought-provoking story. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you today. Thanks very much, Rob, for joining.
Thank you so much.
So do join our TFP community for the details of our latest In Conversation with episodes, as well as the latest free to access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Rob and myself, thanks for listening to the Food People in Conversation with, and as always, leave you with one question: how are you shifting the future of food and drink? We'll see you next time.